Hello friends, I Deepa Moghe welcome you to the 7th English episode of Tumcho Amcho Cinema, a series of film appreciations originally presented in Konkani by Moghe. Today we shall critically appreciate Alfonso Cuarón's Spanish-Mexican film Roma. The film opens with a very effective scene. Camera lingers over the square tiles of the pavement, and as water comes splashing over it, we realize that someone is cleaning the floor. The reflection of the open frame of the roof above is visible in the water. The image of the sky seen through that open roof and the minute shape of the airplane moving across that sky is reflected in the water. As the camera slowly tilts up, our eyes catch the sight of this young girl cleaning the floor. This scene speaks volumes of the one who is destined to only see the reflection of that airplane moving high up in the sky in that dirty, soapy water on the floor, making clear to us the character of her personality. In this same long take, Cleo, the housemaid, enters the toilet of the outhouse. She locks the door from inside, and till she comes out, almost for a period of 20 seconds, the audience just keep watching the frame, viewing the locked door and listening to the chirping birds locked in the cage. In this very first long take, director Alfonso Cuarón establishes a parallel between the outhouse at the very end of the corridor, the dog Barros, the chirping caged birds, and Cleo, the housemaid. This film is about Cleo's days in their house, her life that seems contented but still has something amiss. Roma is the part of the city of Mexico where Alfonso Cuarón spent his entire childhood. This film is based on his childhood memories in this city. The house in which Cleo works is a huge house. In the beginning, we see Cleo moving through the different rooms in the house, busy doing her household chores. The director places the camera somewhere at the central axis of the house and keeps panning to follow Cleo performing her daily routine work. While doing so, the camera marks a circle. It looks like Cleo is tied to an invisible pole, which makes the center of this household. Her existence revolves around the drudgery that she carries out for this family, laboring tenaciously. When for the first time we see Cleo coming out of the gates to collect the kids from the school, camera pans in a similar fashion, defining the limits of her world. As her day dawns, tied to the invisible pole, toiling around the house throughout, so it ends in a similar way, tending to the needs of the family one after another. This time, the camera moves at a 360 degrees angle. Only when Cleo is enjoying her own personal moments and she is her own self, the camera runs parallel with her. In this manner, the camera gauges Cleo several times in the film. In one of the scenes, on the terrace, where Cleo is washing laundry, she joins one of the children lying down to play dead when he is left alone by the other in the game that they are playing. As the camera tilts up and pans, we see the entire space occupied with clothes put on wires for drying, precisely indicating the limitations of Cleo's existence. It becomes obvious to one about how she is not entitled to the heavenly happiness that follows death. As the camera keeps panning, other maids on other rooftops come into sight, busy washing and drying their loads of laundry. They share a fate similar to that of Cleo. They all toil relentlessly for the employers' families, but without any salvation. The man of the house, Antonio's introductory entry in the film, is representative of his chauvinistic paternalism. His car is supersized. Even before we see the car, its horn is heard, aggressively loud. Before giving us the glimpse of Antonio's face, the director gives us glimpses of his personality through a series of close cuts, like his hand placed on the gear rod holding a cigarette in his fingers, his heavy boots rested on the accelerator. When Cleo opens the gates, the headlights of his car resemble intimidating eyes fiercely staring into one's face. As his car maneuvers into the driveway, it occupies the entire space, symbolizing his power of control. His wife Sophia and the children are eagerly waiting for him at the door, but he is least concerned. The excitement of his return that Sophia and children cannot contain is hardly seen on Antonio's face. A relationship is built between Cleo and a Mexican young man, Fermin. Fermin comes to a restaurant to collect Cleo. This is his first entry in the film. When Cleo pays her bill, turns her back and leaves the table, Fermin quickly drinks her leftover soft drink behind her back, revealing the traits of his character. Mexico City at that time is in a state of political chaos, and Fermin is a member of a paramilitary organization that supports the government in power to suppress the opposition. In one of the scenes, when Fermin, completely naked, tries to impress Cleo by displaying his martial arts skills, the director brings to our notice the caricaturistic representation of his and his political philosophies. In the scene where Sophia realizes that her husband is leaving the family forever, the director shows a band marching down the street. This scene is presented not only through the point of view of the mother, but also of one of her sons, who is standing along with Cleo at the gate. This point in the film, when a husband is departing from the wife's life and a father is departing from the son's life, marks the end of an era in the lives of each one of them. The director makes this scene more intense and dark by showing the band playing and marching down the street. The visual of Antonio's car making way through the marching band is impressed as an image that lingers in the minds of the viewers. While leaving, Antonio steps into the pile of dog droppings. Agitated, Sophia scolds Cleo for not cleaning up the dog mess, as if Cleo is the reason for Antonio deserting this family. Many a times, Cleo seems to be a part of this family. But on several occasions like these, the director reveals her real status, her real place in the family, keeping a distance of a servant. Cleo returns to the porch to clean up the dog excrement, scrubbing and washing the floor. Once again, we hear an airplane moving overhead. This so-called man of principles, Fermin, who boasts of gaining focus through the discipline of martial arts, simply disappears, leaving Cleo alone at a movie theater when she reveals that she is pregnant. The lady of the house is abandoned by her husband, and the maid of the house is abandoned by her boyfriend. Finding a way out is difficult for both. When Cleo, along with Sophia's family, visits Sophia's relatives for Christmas, she comes across a wall on which are mounted the heads of the family dogs who have served and have passed away. While Cleo is deep in her thoughts, looking at those heads, one of the family dogs starts licking her hand. Does Cleo at that point relate her existence in Sophia's family to that of a dog? The New Year celebration is a display of the typical colonial mentality. The stuffed carcasses of the hunted animals seen all around the house is an indication of the exploitations happening in this region for numerous years. And the director, by panning the camera like before, brings this to our notice through Cleo's point of view. Suddenly, far away from the house, the woods catch fire. Everybody gather and try to extinguish the fire, the Spanish, the Mexican, the young and the old alike. But the camera is stationed at one place, panning left and right, observing the happenings. as everybody is trying to put off the fire. New Year arrives, and even in that panicky situation, we hear people wishing each other Happy New Year. The woods are burning in the background, and in the foreground, we see a man dressed up as old man singing a melancholy song. By projecting this scene in this manner, the director indicates at a larger fire that refers to the then social and political conditions prevalent in that country. Cleo is pregnant, and there is no sign of Fermin. She visits the village to see him. Fermin is busy practicing martial arts with others on the ground. At that time, a demonstration about how one can gain control over one's body by gaining control over one's mind is in progress. Everybody tries the exercise. It is not easy as it seems, but surprisingly, only Cleo manages to do it. Nobody realizes this as their eyes are shut. Cleo too is unaware about this unique ability of hers, as her eyes are also closed. It is so unfortunate that she will never ever know that she was the only one who could do it. At this moment, we again see an aeroplane flying across the sky. Once, heavily drunk, Sophia arrives, banging and brushing her husband's massive car against the walls of the driveway. It is symbolic of her attempts to break free by distorting and destroying her husband's memories and his influence on her life. But this act of hers not only damages the car, but also causes the breaking into pieces of the pillar which forms the very foundation of this house. This incident indicates the everlasting harm that has been caused to the entire family. Cleo is waiting at the door for her. Sophia comes to her and declares, "No matter what they tell you, in the end, we women are always alone." At that moment, the similarity between the sorrow of the lady of the house and the suffering of her maid is manifested distinctly, taking on a visual depiction of the universal pain of the entire woman community, which in turn dawns upon the viewers. The glass of the front door, broken by Sophia's son, another man in the house, now shows prominently on the screen. Cleo's baby is almost due. The day Cleo goes shopping for a crib in the market, student protesters are on the street demonstrating against the government. The paramilitary organization that supports the government attacks the students. The protesters look for shelter wherever possible. They enter the store where Cleo is shopping. The gunmen follow them to the store and begin firing. Fermin is also among the attackers. He points a gun at Cleo itself. To go to this extent in his obsession, he has so lost his senses. Due to this shock, Cleo's water breaks. It is too late before she reaches the hospital, eventually giving birth to a stillborn child. The stillborn child is a baby girl. In the hospital sequence, Sophia's husband, Antonio, unexpectedly arrives to see Cleo and reassures her as she is crying in pain. It is difficult to judge whether her crying is out of the physical pain that she is undergoing, or is it due to the pain that is struck by the superficial sympathy that men display. After the hospital sequence, before showing Cleo sitting sadly inside the house, the director arranges a few cut shots. All of them are steady shots. The camera movement that initially happened because of Cleo's routine activities throughout the house is not happening anymore. It seems as if everything has come to a standstill. The only sounds that we hear are of the birds chirping in the cage and of the dog jumping at the gate. The gate is closed, and someone mockingly walks across, trumpeting a toy instrument. The shadow of the wailing dog is seen through the gate, and then the silhouette of Cleo becomes visible. It is bright outside, but dark within. This is how the director chooses to express Cleo's grief. Sophia now arrives with a new car, a small one which easily enters the porch, making enough breathing space for all. A space unwinding, devoid of any pressures. Sophia has sold the old car, but before giving it away, she decides to go on a family trip to a faraway beach. They all insist that Cleo should join them. Feeling happy, everyone moves inside the house. The new car and Cleo is left behind in the porch, with an unfettered new space, free of masculine influence. There are two intentions behind this outing. First, to reveal the truth about their father to the children, and second, to allow the father to take away his things from the house, as he finds it awkward to do so in the presence of the children. Children are shocked to know the truth. To express the kind of situation the family is trapped in, the director organizes to create a suitable image. We see the family seated in front of a huge replica of a crab, and in the background, in the same hotel, another wedding is in progress. The director very skillfully expresses this never-ending play of breaking and building of relationships in our lives. They all go for swimming to the beach next day. The way the soapy water slowly moved ahead on the floor at the beginning of the film, when Cleo is cleaning the floor, in a similar fashion, the sea waves are now seen gradually moving forward. While swimming, the children move deep into the sea, and that is when they start drowning. The sea is roiling. Cleo doesn't know to swim. Sophia is also not close by. Cleo wades into the surging waves, hardly caring for her life. The camera tracks Cleo parallelly, first on the land and then through water. Struggling against the threatening waves, Cleo saves the drowning girl. The dirty soapy water at the start of the film, and this gushing sea water at this point of the film. Bending down to pour water for cleaning the dirty floors, and now facing the threatening sea waves with an upright head to save one's life, symbolizes the elevation of this character of Cleo. This film, which begins with the dirty waters on the floor, climaxes into the vast, powerful waters of the sea. And for the first time, Cleo tearfully confesses that she had not wanted the baby to be born. The contradiction that lies in that moment and Cleo's loving personality is a helpless but an ardent confession of her social and economical backgrounds. Finally, they all return with a sense of a realization of a greater disparity that exists. As their car approaches the house, we see the same band marching on the road. At this point, their lives are going to take a new turn. When the children enter the house, they notice that the father has picked up his things. He has kept the books behind, but has taken away the bookshelves. Through this, the director makes us realize the shallowness of Antonio, the father of the children. Cleo is back to her household routine. Camera positioned at the same central axis, pans like before, observing Cleo once again. Birds are chirping in the cage. Barros, the dog, is around like always. But for the first time, while Cleo is climbing towards the terrace, sky becomes clearly visible, and the airplane moving in the sky too. This is how the cinema ends. Roma by Alfonso Cuarón is an amazing cinema, a combination of his childhood memories, the life of his childhood caretaker, Libo, the Roma of the 60s and 70s, and the political happenings of that time, molded into a creation which stands testimony to his flair of filmmaking that is par excellence. Though this film, telling the story of the lives in the small part of Mexico City in the early 70s, is a black and white cinema, the glossy palette of the film, with its aspect ratio and other digital specifications, are close to the present. This film is very different from Alfonso Cuarón's previous films, Children of Men and Gravity. The surrealism in Children of Men, romanticism in Gravity, and the realism in Roma only brings to one's notice the director's strong hold on these various styles of filmmaking. Roma gives the audience the sheer joy of watching a pure cinema. Do watch this film, available on Netflix. In the next episode of Tumcho Amcho Cinema, we shall critically appreciate Cuarón, a Marathi film by Chaitanya Tamhade. This film was awarded the Indian National Award in 2014. In the same year, at the Venice International Film Festival, it received the Best Film Award in the Horizon section. You can watch this film on Amazon Prime Video. To watch the critical appreciation of world cinema, do subscribe to our channel Vinsan Academy of Film and Media. See you next week. Goodbye till then.